Hey, what's going on, Faithful? I want to get on and talk about three targets in this draft, the 2026 NFL draft, that the 49ers have to be looking at and hopefully will select this season. First off, thank you so much for joining me. This is the Niners on the Go podcast. I am Guy Deal. And I just wanted to, like I said, go over some of these names because after watching and doing all this mock draft for several months now and watching tape on all these guys, I really feel like there's some guys that start to kind of become themes in your mocks, and you kind of start to see again and again, obviously, and they just jump out at you. Their film jumps out, their production jumps out. Obviously, now we have enough of from the combine, all the information that we have, the measurables. So we have so much to measure these guys on in terms of not just the tape, not just the productivity and the stats, but really their athleticism. One thing that I love to say all the time is the guy dynamic? And so we see a lot of these things even on the scores that they show up on some of the mock drafts too. Is like they tell you how twitchy a guy is, how athletic, dynamic. I think those things really matter, especially if they were able to do that at the highest levels in some of these big conferences and some of the biggest games. And so that stuff starts to come into play. And so for me, there were three guys that I've really identified here in these last maybe 3 weeks to a month, where I was like, these guys are difference makers, I think, in year one for the 49ers. And they also happen to fill some needs. But more than anything, these are great players. They had great productivity. They have great athleticism. They are dynamic. Some of these guys are really fast, and their measurables also jump off the page at you. So I just want to get started and say, regardless of what the 49ers are going to do at 27, what I've been doing in my mock drafts is I've been actually moving back at times and trying to get extra picks. Like, to me, 6 picks is just so little. It's too few lottery tickets, as they say, to really be able to say, okay, I'm going to take this guy. He's going to become a great player. It's just, you need more lottery tickets, as they say, right? Like you just need more, 9, 10 picks seems like a good number to be at. I think the 49ers can get there. They can end up with 8 or 9 picks for sure. Maybe even they can get a pick for next year. And so whenever I'm doing these mock drafts, I'm kind of working off of that. And so some of these guys that come up, they're still available. And so I have a pretty good idea and a good sense now of who's going to be gone and who might still be there at the top of the second round, for instance, the middle of the second, back of the fourth, into the fifth round, who are going to be those gems. And so I'll just go ahead and start one guy for me, because I've been hearing all about the wide receivers. So we'll get going on wide receivers. I keep hearing things about, oh, what if Denzel Boston drops? What if Omar Cooper is there? What if, Casey Concepcion for some reason is there? I think at least 2 of those 3 will not be at 27. And if you move back for certain, you're not going to be able to take at least 2 out of those 3 guys. Boston, again, and some of these other guys, I think it's going to be interesting, because if you're trying to draft a player to say this guy is going to be a developmental guy, he's going to sit, or he's going to be a guy that just in case, knock on wood, knock on every piece of wood that is available to you. What if Mike, or what if, I'm thinking, I don't even want to say his full name because I don't want to jinx it, but what if Mike Evans? What if Ricky? What if all these guys, like, in case they're not available for some reason and it's an extended time, then, okay, you drafted this guy that can be a playmaker. He can be your Ted McMillan, and that's, as we saw last year and heard last year, that's the type of physical specimen that Kyle really covets and he wants in a wide receiver. Well, you made the move and signed Mike Evans. And so the intention behind all these moves, Osa Digizua, all these moves, is to hopefully have these guys available, right? Like you don't go into the season thinking, oh, well, I won't have them available for a certain amount of time. So this is April. And that's the other thing too, is you're looking at, well, we're in March, but the draft is in April. And so you're trying to draft based on the best player available, 100%, and see if you can fill some needs along the way as well. So I think one guy at wide receiver that I have not heard at all about, or not enough, and he's a great player, is Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama. Really strong, really about 6 feet, 210 pounds, built really strong. and can make a lot of plays. He's a dynamic athlete. He's fast. He's a guy that what I love about him is the thing I love most when I watch great wide receivers is they get faster as soon as they catch the ball. They're in and out of their cuts really well, but as soon as they catch the ball, their acceleration is just insane. It's funny, and I'm not making this comparison at all, but just looking at the greatest of all time, because like I said, it's something that I love in watching the tape. And when you watch Jerry Rice play, Jerry's 40 time is not fantastic, but his acceleration was always enough to get away from guys. And so I'm always looking for that kind of stuff. Larry Fitzgerald, great acceleration. Some of these guys they get the ball and they just go. And the 40 time can be an indicator of that. Justin Jefferson has a great 40 time and he's a good accelerator. That guy is just gifted all the way around. Randy Moss was that way. But when I'm watching these guys, when they make their cuts, are they like ready to catch the ball and then go ahead and accelerate and have the confidence to accelerate when they're cutting and they don't know who's going to be there, right? And these days it's a little bit easier because guys don't often get blown up coming across the middle, but still, I still like to see when a receiver has that confidence that I can catch it and go, and I don't have to watch the ball into my hands and kind of pause, and it's just one dynamic, fluid movement. And Germie Bernard has that. Very good in and out of his cuts, accelerates well, very strong. So he can run over you if he wants to, if you're there. And so you get a little bit of that Debo aspect, because I know so much talk about this offseason too from different content creators and just rumors was, is Debo coming back? And I think at this point we know now after the Christian Kirk signing and all this kind of stuff, that room is full. It's a pretty full room for the guys that are signed, 6 guys all told right now. But if you do draft a guy like Germie Bernard, you don't need him to be your playmaker right away. He can be, but what you can do is you can kind of move him around, and he is a little bit of a Swiss Army in that way because of his strength. So you can do some of that orbit motion type of stuff, some of the jet sweep type of stuff, some of the underneath things that you need to do at times to keep the defense honest and to also just give Brock some outlets, right? You always want to have more outlets, especially early in the season when you're not going to have George Kittle, right? You're more than likely not going to have that guy, and especially not at full strength the way he's going to be, week 10 and on in the season as we hope. So you're going to need guys that can be outlets. So that's a guy that I would love to see us, if we do trade back, top of the second round, he should be there. Germie Bernard, wide receiver, Alabama, just a great player, very dynamic, would be a great fit too in our offense. Looks like a hard worker too. Just a guy, like I said, he just does everything right, plays the game the right way. And so seems like a guy that would fit perfectly in what we want to do and what we want to do this season. With that, another guy in another position that obviously is of great importance, even if Trent comes back. And I still fully expect Trent to sign on. Now, I didn't think it was going to keep dragging on even this point, but hopefully it won't drag on too much further. Regardless, though, you need to get a tackle. You need to get a tackle that isn't just a guy. You need a difference maker. And to me, when I watched the Senior Bowl, the guy that was just destroying guys and looked like he could pancake NFL players was Demetrius Crownover out of Texas A&M. This guy, you could put him at right tackle, you could put him at left tackle. But if you do need that guy to be that experimental guy, and he wouldn't even be that experimental, developmental guy, because I think his skill set is really sound. But if you need him to sit behind a legend like Trent Williams and learn and then come onto the scene and be ready to go, I don't think there's a tackle in this draft class that is as gifted as Demetrius Crownover out of A&M. And so have a look at his tape. There's plenty of it online. The Senior Bowl drills, I thought, very rarely was he getting his hands on guys and not moving those feet and having a good space, a good anchor as well. Just really big dude too, strong. In that way, he reminds me of Trent, even though nobody really reminds us of Trent because Trent is an all-timer. But, what you're looking for is not necessarily, is this the next Trent, but you're looking for the next great, solid, NFL-ready tackle. We've been really spoiled because we went from Joe Staley all the way through 2019 And then in 2020, we made that move to get Trent Williams. And so all these years, we really haven't had to worry about that spot, but we need to get to it, I think, at this point. I really agree with a lot of the local beat writers and other 49ers content creators that we can't just keep putting that off any longer, because it's getting to the point now where, Trent is 38. If something happens this year or next year, or whatever, even if you sign him back on, right, as we expect, he's getting so long in the tooth that might be the thing that says, okay, I've had enough, or it might just be the injury that is just, you can't come back from as quickly, right? And he's an incredible athlete, so I don't think it would be just that, but I think you still need to start investing in that, in the draft, in developing a guy and having him ready to go in your offense and understanding what is asked of you in a complex system. And I think, like I said, you get the most gifted, talented, just physically imposing guy that you can to protect your $250+ million investment in Brock Purdy. And like I said, Demetrius Crownover, that's my guy, right? Blake Miller, great. All these other guys, really good. But to me, that was the guy that stands out, and he just pops off the page to me. And then my third guy, the third guy to me that is just, it's a position that is the bane of the 49ers existence, and that's free safety. The 49ers have not had a true ball hawking free safety since Merton Hanks. I'm going to say that again. We have not had a true ball hawk, I want to get 5 interceptions a season, since Merton Hanks. And I love Deshaun Goldson. I think he's probably the closest we've had in the 2010s. But I still believe you need a ball hawk guy. You need a guy with vision. You need a guy that's fast, has the physicality that's needed. What you need is a poor man's Ed Reed. Now, that's what everybody's looking for, so very hard to find. But I believe I might have found some version of that in this kid when I watched the tape of Jalen Kilgore, who's from South Carolina. And this guy, he was former teammates with Nicky Manwari, but I think like Nick was, just that in the box safety type of guy who I think can do a lot of other things, of course, as well, as we've seen. But Jalen Kilgore, it's like Charles Woodson type of vision sometimes, because this guy just understands where he needs to be, does his homework. He's around the ball a lot. And then in run support, he just dissects plays extremely quickly and helps in support really, really well. So he's a complete player. I mean, you're talking about somebody who's 6 feet plus, again, 200+ pounds, 210, I believe, physical, strong, fast. But what I love most is the 49ers have not had any safeties that can create turnovers. The balls just clank off our safeties' hands year after year, and we need that to stop. We need guys to corral 4 or 5 interceptions a season, 3 interceptions a season. Our safeties struggle mightily to get that. Now, this past season, a lot of it had to do with the pass rush and not having Bosa and all that. But even in the years we've had those guys, we need guys that are big, physical, and can intercept the ball and can create turnovers, can force fumbles. And I think that this is the guy, Jalen Kilgore out of the University of South Carolina. Again, I could be wrong on this, but as a prospect, I really like what I'm seeing from him. I think he's going to be a great player in the NFL. I really do. And just the more I watch him, the more I see a guy that understands the way that the game flows, does his homework, and then he just has the physical gifts to be able to get there, to get to the spot that he needs to get to in order to intercept the pass, break it up, or just be a guy that helps to gang tackle and run support and all those other things. So those are my guys. Those are my picks. Please let me know what you think. Thank you so much, you guys, for supporting the channel. I will keep doing as much as I can, as often as I can. Thank you so much once again. Take care, faithful.